Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for coming. I'd like to acknowledge all of our state legislators who are with us today, including Senator Street, as well as Representatives Kinsey, Sims, Harris, Daly, Youngblood, Briggs, and Cephas. Thank you all for being here. I'd also be remiss if I didn't recognize Jovita Hill and the Philadelphia Commission for Women for their advocacy on behalf of women and girls. And I'm especially pleased today to welcome the governor to Philadelphia. Governor Wolf has been a great defender of our city against the Trumpian policies that sometimes emerge from Harrisburg. And there is no legislation more out of touch with our values than the bill he's here today to veto, Senate Bill 3. Senate Bill 3 bans abortion after 20 weeks and provides no exceptions for rape and incest. The state should not be telling women, particularly women who become pregnant by rape or incest, that they don't have the right to decide what to do with their own body. These women are victims, and they should not be victimized again by this law. The state legislators who voted on this bill are not physicians, nor do they have any medical expertise. If they did, they would understand that this bill criminalizes a medical procedure most commonly used by doctors to protect the life of the mother when tragedy strikes during a pregnancy. These women deserve our support, not to be maligned by politicians in Harrisburg for making medical decisions about their families with their own doctors. It's now my pleasure, well, it's my job, this is not a pleasurable day, it's now my job to turn over to Deborah Malamet-Minkoff, a member of Pennsylvania's Commission for Women, to talk more about why it's so important that this bill be vetoed today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm here today as a representative of the Governor's Commission for Women. We are a bipartisan commission. We will always advocate against legislation that impacts women and families without any public hearings. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I've been a lawyer, Cozen O'Connor, for over 30 years, and in each of these roles, I value thoughtfulness. SB 3 removes women's rights to make a thoughtful decision. SB 3 turns back the clock. SB 3 eliminates a woman's right to terminate a pregnancy after 20 weeks, even though Roe and Casey put the deadline at 24. A pregnant woman gets an ultrasound at 20 weeks. This is the most important ultrasound. At 20 weeks, the doctors can determine if the pregnancy is developing normally or if there are any issues that are inconsistent with life outside the womb. Women and families who receive heartbreaking news can consult with specialists between weeks 20 and 23 to find out if anything can be done or if nothing can be done. For this reason, the 24-week deadline makes medical sense. The United States Supreme Court has found that the Constitution permits a woman and her doctor to make a decision within 24 weeks without intervention by the government. Under SB 3, families will be forced to make decisions without the guidance of medical professionals. SB 3 takes away the right to make informed decisions. SB 3 also did not result from informed decisions. This is a bill that impacts the health of women, yet the legislature banned a medical procedure without testimony from the medical community. The careful thoughtfulness that we hoped would guide our legislators was absent. And SB 3 has no exception for rape or incest. The absence of an exception is truly awful. The legislature is forcing a woman or a girl to continue a pregnancy that resulted from a criminal act. The absence of an exception for rape demonstrates the thoughtlessness behind the bill as well as the heartlessness. The bill also criminalizes the treating physician. Despite the fact that the medical community has advised that SB 3 is wrong, a doctor who terminates a pregnancy within 24 weeks, as permitted by the Supreme Court, would be committing a felony. I'm disappointed to my core that certain legislators seek to make decisions for women who find themselves in one of the worst nightmares a woman can find herself in. I am beyond disappointed that certain state legislators want to impose their values on women instead of allowing women to be guided by their own values and by the wisdom of medical science. I am heartened that Pennsylvania's governor has thoughtfully considered the impact of SB 3 on women and families in the Commonwealth. Thank you, Governor Wolf. And now it's my honor to welcome back to the city of Philadelphia Latasha Mays from Pittsburgh. Natasha is one of the leading thought leaders in the field of reproductive rights.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Latasha D. Mays, and I'm the founder and executive director of New Voices for Reproductive Justice, a multi-state organization dedicated to the health and well-being of Black women and girls, Black women, femmes, and girls in Pennsylvania and Ohio. New Voices has built a movement for reproductive justice over nearly the last 14 years based upon our fundamental belief that we all have the human right to control our bodies, our sexuality, our gender, our work, our reproduction, and the ability to form our families. We believe that health care is a human right, and that includes abortion access. Senate Bill 3 is another attempt at an abortion ban that undermines the health and well-being of women in Pennsylvania. It is another dangerous bill, like the over 400 bills that lawmakers and state legislatures across the nation have introduced with the overt intent to restrict or eliminate abortion access. New Voices is most concerned about the disproportionate impact of such a law on the health and well-being of Black women and women of color in Pennsylvania. So today, on behalf of the tens of thousands of Black women we serve in Pennsylvania, we stand in solidarity with our Governor, Tom Wolf, in his courageous veto of Senate Bill 3. We will continue to work together with Governor Wolf as we build the reproductive justice present and future. And we want our legislators to know that it is more important to us that they spend their time not limiting women's health care or access to abortion, but the things that make us all, give us all the ability to flourish, that give women the opportunity to bring children into this world. So when we talk about health care and protecting it, we also have to talk about education and housing. We have to talk about equal and equitable pay for women and women of color in particular. We have to talk about childcare. We have to talk about the environments that our communities are living in. That's what I want our legislators to do, and that's where their focus needs to be. We also thank legislators in Pennsylvania who, in spite of the political odds, have bet on women, and that they have stood boldly on the side of reproductive justice. We say to lawmakers who continue to introduce legislation that restricts access to health care and that restricts abortion access, we want to say to them not only to trust women, but for those who we serve, we say boldly, trust, and unapologetically, we say trust Black women. At this time, I would like to introduce Dr. Erica Gold-Black Hyatt. Dr. Hyatt is a professor, clinician, and published expert in the areas of grief and loss. She is also an advocate for women's reproductive rights. Erica is the mother of 3 living children, the wife of an accountant, and lives in Lower Moreland, Pennsylvania. Governor Wolf, thank you so much, and welcome, Erica.
Good afternoon. My son's first name was Darby, and he was my first son. He was conceived in 2012. A tiny urn of his ashes sits beside my bed, atop it the figurine of an angel. Though it's been 5 years, I often wonder who he might have become had he not suffered from the disorder that he did. Had he survived, Had he been viable, had we been able to bring him into the world alive and healthy, he would have been 5 years old tomorrow. His due date was December 19th. And if he hadn't been terminally ill, if he had lived, would he have loved our 3 dogs, rolling around with them in the backyard grass? Would he have danced with wild abandon to the silly songs that I do now with my 3 children? Would I have sang him to sleep every night, just as I do the siblings that came after him? One thing is for certain. There would have been more than enough love for him in our family. Love is never in question. Love was never in question when we found out at our anatomy scan that Darby never developed an airway or trachea. Love informed us as parents that we needed to explore every option available to ensure Darby's survival. Love rested heavily in the air, as did grief, when the social worker squeezed my hand while the world-famous fetal surgeon told me that he could not fix Darby's condition in the womb, that Darby's internal organs were being crushed by amniotic fluid, that his heart was in failure, his lungs 2 overinflated balloons, his diaphragm inverted, and that he was going to die. Love, warm, vibrating, wistful, and desperate, as we were told that if Darby made it to term, he would likely be born brain dead. He would not breathe on his own. He would not laugh, cry, speak to, or know us. He would know only suffering, eternal darkness, if he survived to term, and the chances of that were slim. Love led my husband and I to end the pregnancy. So many pregnancies are normal and without complication that few people today understand or have empathy for the ones that do not, that cannot make it. Few couples must decide in the best interest of their child before he is born, and even fewer must make the devastating choice that that child's life should end before it begins. It is unfathomable. It is cruel and unfair. But for those of us who have walked this path, choosing to end the pregnancy was often the only element of control we had in an otherwise powerless situation. Under SB 3, our choice to terminate would have been criminalized, but we would have made the decision nonetheless. Would we have traveled to another state, another country, to ensure that Darby didn't suffer? Desperate, would we have found someone practicing illegally and in secret, risking my own health and livelihood? Would I have been forced to carry a stillborn baby to term, or made the decision to withdraw life support from a brain-dead baby later on? I don't know, because I was able to safely end the pregnancy, so I didn't have to face any of those alternate realities. I do know that thanks to Tom Wolfe, women in Pennsylvania facing a story like mine in the future will not have to do so either. They will continue to make choices in the best interests of their children, guided not by politicians, but by the best medical professionals in the field, their faiths, their families, their friends. Thanks to Governor Wolfe, women like me will maintain our freedom to believe what the science tells us about our unborn children and the self-determination to make our own decisions about our bodies and our babies. The choice whether to carry a pregnancy to term or end it in the face of devastating fetal anomaly, trisomy, or other heartbreaking condition or circumstance should not belong to anybody else. It is in Darby's memory, to honor his life and death, that I continue to tell his story. Out of love for him and my living son and daughters, that I stand beside Governor Wolfe today. It is my true honor to now introduce Governor Wolfe, who has stood on the side of women from the very beginning. He has trusted women. He has supported women, and he promised us that he would not allow politicians to steal from us the right to make the best choices for our families. Please join me in welcoming him now, Governor Tom Wolfe.
Thank you, Erica. Thank you very much for that very nice introduction. I was here not too long ago when I think Mayor Kenny stood here and asked the question that I think we need to ask today. Why are we still having this conversation? Why are we still bringing this up? So I'm here today to veto Senate Bill 3. Senate Bill 3 is a vile assault on the women's ability to make their own decisions about their own health care. Make no mistake about it. SB 3 is an attack on women. It's an attack on their health, their freedoms, their choice, their liberties. I want to be clear, this legislation is a disingenuous and bald-faced attempt to pass the most extreme anti-choice legislation in the country. This legislation is an attempt to criminalize the decisions that women must be allowed to make about their own health care. This legislation is so extreme, it does not even include exceptions for women and girls who are victims of rape and incest. For too long, Republicans in Washington and in Harrisburg have played games with health care. They've repeatedly attacked a woman's right to make her own decisions. This has to stop. It's not a politician's place to legislate a woman's decision about her own body. And it is never. And it is never a politician's place to play doctor and attempt to legislate medical decisions. This continued attempt to limit the rights of women must end. Politicians have no place making women's health care decisions for them. This is a misguided policy that moves Pennsylvania backwards. And I will not allow this attempt to turn political talking points into law. I will not allow that to succeed. So while I veto this bill today, I pledge to continue to fight against all attempts to strip a woman's ability to make her own decisions about her own health and her own family. Should Harrisburg Republicans continue to try to this attack, and if they continue to try to attack the freedoms and rights of the women of Pennsylvania, I will stop those attempts also. Should Harrisburg Republicans try again to stop women from making their own decisions about their own health care, I will stop that too. Senate Bill 3 is wrong for women, but it's also wrong for our democracy. It's also wrong for our health care system. It's simply wrong for Pennsylvania. I will veto this today, and I'm proud to be the person to put my signature on that veto. Okay. All ready? Okay. There we are. Thank you very much. Thanks for your support.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. This is not the bill, this is a veto.
Right before one time, Governor? Thank you.
And I'll be happy to take questions from the podium over here. So let me take some questions. So I'll take questions from the podium on topic, and I'll be doing a gaggle behind you off topic. No, I don't. Just the people we've counted, I don't think they have the votes. Excuse me? I don't know how many times I've done it, but I've done it before and I've never been overridden. Anything else? Okay, thank you very much.